Hey Mark, good morning.
Do I? Wait, am I muted? Unmuted. I'm so confused.
I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Hi, Matesh. Might
Hey,
be
how are you?
lightly attended today. I just got a message from Manu. He can't make it, and I know it's been sort of slow last few weeks, but as usual, we'll make the best of it. So,
Yeah, I apologize. I mean, my attendance is spotty for a couple of months lately. I recently cut some back as well, so
oh
now
yeah,
I'm.
it's
It's
been
been the
pretty
season
nasty.
of a year, but
Oh
just so you know, I'll be out. I think starting next week till the
yeah,
first week of January.
we're probably going to have this last meeting of this year and resume in the new calendar year. That's sort of what I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
that's wise.
Well, I'm on vacation next week, but if there was interest, I'd call in. But it seems like there may be. Okay, so I put the meeting minutes in the chat. Let's see. And what I'm going to do now is share my screen. So what I was hoping to accomplish today, and I also want to pull up real quick. I want to pull up the message I got from Manu on, let's see. Okay, okay. So I'm gonna put in the chat um, the messages from Manu so you can read them. Did he respond to just me or did he respond to everyone? Oh, he responded to the list as well, so you would see these. Okay. But it's something to noodle on. Okay.
Mhm.
So what I was hoping to accomplish. Hi, Hank. Good to see you. Since you're here, let me first ask you again this question that I'm still struggling with. And by the way, we talked about likely this being the last meeting of this year
Oh,
because of upcoming holidays and travel and whatnot. So we, after today, we'll probably re-engage in January. But
okay.
wanted to ask you because again, the time is ticking, and I don't want to lose whatever momentum we have with the ITF. And if you recall, following the ITF, I sent another follow-up email to Rats, basically saying, "Look, here is a use case that's important for your enterprise customers, certainly." And I that has generated no re responses. There've been related discussions. So there was one like, how do relying parties deal with attestation results, which is sort of in the same
Mm-hmm.
vein, right? But we really
Mm-hmm.
haven't had a follow up on this particular thrust. So I wanted to hear your perspective on, what do we do? So the next ITF is upon us, right? Do we submit anything to it? How does it look?
So formally, so can you hear me first of all?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
okay, wonderful. Yeah, I was running around with aware mode the whole day. Now I'm in silent mode and it feels weird. So okay, ITF, the
Yeah.
response. Why? So the good thing is that you did a lot of work and created all this ASCII art and the corresponding mermaid diagrams and SVGs about the
Yeah,
various topological arrangements. I want to say, call it that. These
right.
pattern-esque things. So that makes a lot of sense. But it is also a lot of options for something that lacks a little bit crispness, and that's the business claim evaluator verifier. I want to say verifier, and so that I'm not entirely sure But I think the lack of response is a little bit due to too many options, too many things maybe.
Hmm.
So and it's even not really clear. Can we use the same fundamental principle, like for example, CSR attestation is doing something with the paravisor? That's still my predominant thinking is that every workload is wrapped in some paravisor and becomes an attester and does some identity document acquisition from the platform or whatever, or from an external party maybe. So that is somehow still imprinted in my mind. And when I feel that I having a hard time mapping this maybe misconception or prejudice to the diagrams, then I think people who haven't thought about this are a little bit stunned because they wouldn't know how actually to do this. So I think long talk, short reply now. I think the solution to the problem is to go with a one or two candidates of a core mechanism that would satisfy the requirements of all scenarios and seems viable. And again, I personally assume it probably tends up to be like some paravisor becomes a wrapper around the workload in the CVM context, in the TE context. And there's another attester that's somewhere on the platform. Therefore,
Yeah,
you omit the host operating system and go from there. And
yeah,
so that is still my assumption, but we don't know how that works. I think we need to be more specific there so we can do like a pizza or pommes option, like have two options in the hand and talk to the classroom and tell them not how we want to do it, but these are two options that seem to be viable. Which do you prefer? And then the discussion could be streamlined, I think.
I see. Okay, so uh, so I heard you, and first of all, in defense of the four options, it's that uh, you know I was never advocating that everybody implement all four. It's just I basically said, look, depending on the two pivots, right, where you get your credential from and where you get your key from, you really do have these possibilities. Now, it's safe to discard some for whatever reason, like you don't need them. Uh, it's not to say that they shouldn't be listed just in case. But my biggest problem is if I were to pop up a level, it's not even like architectural in a sense. It is that the various architectures right now that we have, they don't impedance match, they don't align. And because of that, it manifests itself as effectively a deployment hurdle. So just to give you additional context on this, what I find, so people I talk to, and I've talked to now a few players in the space now, sort of outside of ITF and these sort of public forums, they find it almost eye-opening when I say that if I have in a large enterprise with thousands of applications, if I have an application that decided that, hey, I used to be a traditional workload and now I am a continental computing workload. So say that
Mm-hmm.
transition has happened.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm basically saying my dream here is, or my target state is relying parties actually don't notice this transition, even that transition. Because if I deployed workload identities in my enterprise broadly, and every workload has its own identity, the fact that all of a sudden it obtains its credentials via attestation via some old legacy mechanism actually did not change anything as far as relying parties are concerned, which is kind of a prerequisite to having smooth transitions of anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that is to say that if you try thinking about how applications are written and developed, etc., this way, and how the entire ecosystem works, that's where things don't align to make that happen.
Okay, yeah, you are right, but also you are we are recorded, right? So I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how to put this. Yeah, but because it's recorded, it's a different message then.
I don't see actually. Yes. Oh
I
no,
see
no, it is
a
recording. It is
record.
recording.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So but I can be blunt, I guess. So I got, I will not name provenance. I got some feedback, not more than one. That in a nutshell, I would say to the extent to that the TWI proponents are creating negative signaling around the unification, the current unification of attestation results, which is basically what you call the relying party empathy.
Yes.
But also, we have to be a little bit empathetic about how the people who have been working on attestation results for years now
Yeah.
try to progress. So, saying that some IETF draft is overkill, yes, of course. If you want a signed bull, so to speak, for your relying party, everything else is overkill. A CWG would be overkill. So yes, that's correct, but it's still pretty composable. The EAT for attestation result, and which is EAR, and EAR will in the future inherit the data model of R4Z as its information model. So the claim semantics, where you were like, but what does it mean? Like Lawrence Lambrate on the list was like asking, what does if I have 5 keys with values 12, 55, 66, and 20 again, what does that mean to the relying party? So the easy answer is as long as it's in the positive bucket, which is well defined, it means a bool yes to you if you know nothing else. And if you get 4 yeses, you got only yes. So to me, it's 100% yes. Just treat it like a bool. That's yes. Just abstract it with 2 steps and have what you want. And so that was the reply from the core designers from network and hardware realm
Yeah.
that I was able to interview, and that's not wrong, right? So maybe we can have a compromise here. Be empathetic about the relying party and also be flexible enough to deal with a lot of stuff as long as in the end turns out to be yes for us. It's fine.
Yeah.
How does it
Uh,
sound?
right. So I hear you. And let me sort of give you a regulated institution perspective on this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is certainly, I can tell you all sorts of interesting things about the environments in which we operate. So for instance, I don't know if you heard me talk about it, like in China, we're supposed to run. Uh, okay, I may be mischaracterizing it. So, but to the best of my understanding, we're supposed to run some government issued software on our reverse proxies. They
Mm-hmm.
won't tell us what it is. They're
Also
basically
not
saying
unheard of.
run this on your reverse proxies, and we'll have remote access to it. Or in some cases, they say you must give us pen test access to all your stuff. Right. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, legalized malware. So when they don't dictate what we do, they simply say, well, we'll run our stuff, in the same bucket as your stuff.
Yeah. Here's
Um,
your binary. Go ahead.
yeah. So basically, uh, there is interest in protecting data in use, right? We do not trust the environment in which we operate in many parts of the world. That said, uh, when we do this, we don't do this out of the goodness of our hearts. There is also usually some sort of regulation, either current or future, that is going to force our hand. Okay, so we're basically in a mode where we're preparing for this eventuality. And how do you prove to how do you prove to your regulator that you are protecting your data in use? Well, you can certainly do this by saying, well, look at all the complex, authorization policies on our relying parties. And, they just given us all these structures that you are very, very familiar with, right? And EATs and CMWs and like go down the list. That's one way of doing it. But another way of doing it is simply say, uh, we used to recognize this as a payroll application when it was legacy, and we still recognize it as the payroll application. However, look, auditor, here is a policy that is in place for issuing a payroll application credential, right? Which is now no longer something the relying party worries about, the ultimate relying party, but something that is happening in the credentials issuance workflow. And if we can show that this credential, this payroll application, could only have proven that there is a payroll application via remote attestation, that is sufficient for both us and our regulators to be sure that we have satisfied that demand.
Yeah, you have to either blindly trust that verifier or really own it and all its policies.
Or in some cases, you don't even need to own it or blindly trust it. There isn't like you can have a contractual obligation with your, we don't blindly trust Microsoft or Amazon, right? But there is something as a SOC 3 audit, right, that they conduct yearly, etc. There are some, contractual obligations around breach notifications. There is a number of mechanisms in place. No trust is truly blind.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you're right. So there's contractual trust. It's I want to say non-technical trust. But yeah, sure. That trust is always a decision based on something. So
Yeah.
trustworthiness is not always technical. So fine. Also, Microsoft is an interesting example if you bring that up because they tend toward the trending. Actually, I want to say towards real transparency. Like here's all the evidence, and go with it. And so that's an interesting uptake, I think. But the you're right. So the verifiers, there are situations where you don't know what the verifier does, and the contract tells you it will tell you yes or no, and you can really trust it with respect to payroll application, for example. Okay, also fine. And still, you could use one claim from the existing claims in R4Z, sorry, my headphone is dying, in R4Z, and just put a number in the positive feedback bucket, which is ranging from 2 to something, and just send a CWT with one of those selected claims. Or maybe even create your own, and that's good enough, I think. So
tell me then, in this case that you're proposing, okay, so I don't mean it to be a trick question or gotcha question, but I think it's going to come across as one. So say we're going with what you just proposed. My payroll application, upon transitioning to running in a T, is it presenting the same format of a credential to my relying party or something entirely different? Because if it's
I think it will give you a positive result with a different number. So the value will still be in the range of yes, okay, but it will be a different number in the yes, okay, I would assume.
So if my relying party today with my legacy workload expects a WIT, so a workload identity token, and now I went and updated my payroll application to use remote attestation to get its credential. Is my relying party under this new mechanism for credential issuance still seeing a workload identity token that is indistinguishable from the one before, or do I need to go change my relying party to understand the new client?
Oh, a workload identity token is your attestation result in the first scenario, you want to say, but it's not really an attestation result. It's some feedback message. Yes. So
but it's ultimately a credential. It identifies the workload. It's not a bearer token, but that's important. Like if you're using bearer tokens, you're dead. Like I don't even worry about you at this point. But if you're willing to use, bound tokens, X59s, WITs, etc., because again, I'm coming back to the same thing that if we can devise any kind of mechanism, right? But if the upgrade of the client leads to a change on the server, so the ultimate relying party being the server, consumer of that credential being the server, we have a deployment hurdle. Matesh.
I think, Mark, you are making too big of an assumption, at least as far as I'm concerned,
Hmm.
about every change of a token requiring an update of a consumer. Yes, that would be not the desired trait to have, but something clearly has changed. The security posture, if we moved to a TEE in that direction, has upgraded. So
Yeah.
if only the claim is constructed in such a way that you have like I hope I got Hank's kind of message before in this way. If only the claim is in the positive range, but say it scores higher, if only I created my relying party understanding the data format, which is extensible, in such a way that I would accept something greater or equal than X, then this migration would have happened. The credential would have changed indeed, but given I have just upgraded from level 2 to level 3 from security posture, my client still works. It still is talking to the payroll application as far as it is concerned. It just happens to now be working with something of a significantly stronger security posture. And then yes, the relying party or the consumer can double down on it and say, "Oh, I see you have upgraded. I'm now going to restrict you from rolling back. So I'm going to update my policy to now require number three and nothing below that." But I would say, as far as the mechanism itself in the
Hmm.
claims is expressed in a flexible way, if only we coerce the relying parties to code their applications in such a way that they are future proof for this extensibility in mind, or with this extensibility in mind, then I
Hmm.
would say we are golden.
So you're saying that there are some levels of security and the relying party checks the level itself. That's one way of doing it.
Yes, I
I'm
mean
saying
we can craft the claims in such a
right,
way
right, right.
that some of the claims mutate, but they mutate in a direction that you can
Yeah,
anticipate upfront.
right. I'm saying I'm advocating for, and what you're saying is possible. I'm advocating for a mechanism where the only thing that relying party checks, which actually doesn't change at all, right? Forward or back, it doesn't change, is did my client satisfy my enterprise's policy for what it takes to be a payroll application? That is an invariant in the truest sense of the word.
And in that
Now,
sense, unless I misunderstood Hank, I think that claim can also be added or corroborated by the verifier while verifying
mhm,
it.
it can be added to what, right? So while we're working on devising all these mechanisms right now, like while we're sitting in this room, virtual room, having these discussions, uh, the world out there is transitioning to some sort of workload identity, right? So, somebody went and decided, well, we're going to be spiffy all the way, or something equivalent to that. And now we come to them and say, well, you want confidential computing? Well, uh, you better hope that whatever it is you've deployed allows what you just said, because we need to make changes to that.
Which
Where
is
I,
why I had hoped we are indeed reaching out to various communities, including RATS, including Whimsy, to make
Mhm,
sure there is, enough of a hook for us to plug in our stuff. Because our purview is not changing the entire workload identity as a whole. We operate still within the boundaries of the Confidential Computing Consortium. So where our specs would be authoritative would be when we say, hey, this is how you plug it in into confidential computing space. Other things is our outreach and us making sure we have enough, hooking points into various standards. So I would say, I mean, if the transition to a confidential computing is purely transparent to everybody, verifier included, then I would say we haven't accomplished much. Meaning,
oh, no, no, I'm not. It's not transparent verifier included, because in one case the verifier is not used, in the other one it is, right? So that, of course, it's a matter of certainty that in order to get to confidential computing, you'll need to involve verifier in the way the credentials are issued.
well, technically, you could have a verifier without confidential computing. You could verify, contractual obligations via some kind of machine readable policy. It's a stretch, But I wouldn't say verifier is one-to-one mapped to confidential computing. It's a requirement for confidential computing environment indeed, but the
Yeah.
reverse doesn't hold true. It can be deployed in a non-CC environment. But to my point, I would say, we should make sure, and I think there is enough extensibility, for example, in the JWTs that I think Spiffy is proposing, that we could attach extra claims to them. Of course, it doesn't have this future-proofing property I mentioned, that the verifiers or relying parties, while verifying those, know how to interpret stuff we might add. But as long as we can collapse our stuff into one singular Boolean-like response, I say, it then becomes a question of fidelity of the relying party. If they indeed don't care about the underlying changes in the infrastructure, the security posture, they only inspect this Boolean, policy mark saying, corporate policy has been fulfilled.
Yeah.
But if they are, more on a zero trust level of the scale, they might inspect the extra claims about who the verifier was, which policies were applied at a given time, and et cetera, et cetera. So my point only is I don't think immutable wits or credentials are an objective. I think mutable, but in a direction that we can predict and the customers are able to digest even upfront, not knowing about confidential computing while deploying their software.
Okay. So again, I'm not here insisting that I'm right. I'm trying to find some sort of a compromise and sort of the middle ground that we can move towards. But the best way to do it is to express it some sort of write up or a document. And what I'm feeling right now is I don't have the necessary language and tools to express in a proposal what like even Hank just said. Like I'm feeling some sort of a disconnect because I'm still trying to understand, how are these developments in EAT and CMW, in RC, how are they coming together to give us that connection that I'm hoping to see?
So our Forces data model will become ERIS data model. ERIS is the entity attestation result, the EAT attestation result.
Yeah.
EAT is by definition can be manifesting as a JWT or a CWT. A WIT is a JWT, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And it must have a few items in it. It has Azure, XGTI, and then there has to be a JWK in there, and things must work. So in
Yeah.
a certain manner. So this is a very bare bone reuse of existing claims. A proof of possession CNF has to be there, and so
Yeah.
on. And so I think all these claims are interoperable with EAT because they're both using JWT. So you can stuff the VIT claims into an EAT and add more remote attestation claims, or this yes/no claim, which could be one of the R4Z claims if one is suitable. And there will be a discussion with the R4Z authors, including me. So I think that's a suitable one, but I don't want to taint the discussion with my opinion here right now. And then you would have that this range field, this byte value, and if you set it to the range that agrees with that says yes, verify is okay with this, and has some semantics in it because it's choosing a 23 instead of a 25, the relying party doesn't care. As long as the number is in the range of being okay, it can be in the context of its appraisal procedure that might now be okay, and that could be the payroll application.
Yeah.
That really means that it's for the relying party, this is not just any verifier. It is the dedicated payroll application verifier that you expect it to be. And then in that knowledge of the relying party has to understand it cannot just be some verifier, but is one of a certain set. Then the semantics are very clear. They're out of band. They're contractually specified on paper. And they're implemented on the relying party based on that assumption that only verifiers are trusted in the trust ACAR here. Store that are these special business claim application verifiers. So okay, that's of course a thing. And then you just take a WIT, slam an R4Z or /ear claim into it, that is in the range as long as the range value is from the positive bucket, that's fine. There can be semantics in that the party can choose to ignore or can see, oh, this was just a wait, but it's a hardened system. It's an HSM. Oh, nice to know. Or hey, this is a red string
So
with some CVM on
has
top. Like
has
that.
any of this been discussed with Whimsy and accepted by them as a way of moving
No,
forward?
no, 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 no.
Okay.
I'm just highlighting that this. I personally would discuss this first with the R4Z authors, R4Z, the superset of R4Z and EAR authors, which is
Mm-hmm.
a personal union node, and then have a design call, maybe one or two, one to lay out the plans and the requirements, to discuss a little bit, let it sink, have another call, and may hopefully already agree on a way forward. And my strong assumption is that this could be with the one claim you're highlighting, maybe pre-selected from the data model is in R4Z right now and will become the ER information model. And then we go from there, having the message already that the relying party gets. And now we have to really understand how to get to that message. I think that's twice real strength is to show what's the procedure, how the verifier can be certain that it's okay to create this message, because
Yeah,
that's the real work, and that is something we have to really talk about. What building blocks do we reuse to create this positive, rich, extended message that is now in it, right? So that is, I think, the real work. But agreeing on the relying parties message receive, it's an EAT that looks like a WIT plus a EAT claim. That would be relatively straightforward for me. And if we need more, because we are not only okay with having the issuer being a URI, then we might need more claims. And maybe we can again select already defined ones, but that really
right.
depends on what we want to the trustworthy token identifier to be. How is it expressed? And that is a TBD today, I think, right?
But here,
Yeah.
Hank, I think we can extend them later, unless I'm mistaken. I mean, what we are really after, as far as I follow, is having a joint field we have the same interpretation of between ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
Whimsy, Spiffy, Rats, whoever, so that when we shove our confidential computing attestation result in it, or the verifier evaluation result in it, basically a Boolean on steroids, the relying parties start interpreting it straight away. And then the enlightened relying parties will
Mm-hmm.
start using the extra claims, but then we have much more maneuverability because they would be likely, CC enabled or at least CC aware relying parties. So then we are, I would say, even past the TWI generic constructs, we're in the extension land of theirs. And then, sorry, I meant to say spiffy. So then
Ah,
we can create a protocol on top of that with our extensions so that we can communicate the CC specificity. But the biggest fish to fry, as far as I understand it, is really to make sure that whatever is being deployed right now is something we can plug in confidential computing into with no churn for the relying parties. They may not get extra claims or extra security right off the bat because they would be verifying the same old thing. They wouldn't, up their assertions. The underlying engine would be stronger, but the relying party would still receive the same claim. But that would be, at least removing the deployment barrier. And then if they want to up the ante and make sure they are actually, ensuring there is confidential computing underneath, then they can evolve at their pleasure, app by app, if they so choose. But ending the monologue, I think the core, if I were to distill the whole monologue, the core is really agreeing on this one single field, maybe within a discrete range, so that
mm-hmm.
whatever is put into Whimsy and adjacent standards is something we can use as is.
So Whimsy today, so I heard talk, rumors, but I actually don't remember where they were coming from, that Whimsy is considering removing any assertion of trustworthiness like rats at all, and just go with the CNF and the JWK, maybe the proof. There's a proof claim also now recently adopted, which I didn't read a lot. But having said that, so not doing remote attestation, but it's not a problem. If we want to have a trustload workload identity that is somehow constructed, and the relying party gets the result of that being appraised. And so we can abstract all the appraisal away, thinking only about what does the relying party get, being empathetic about it. And you're absolutely right. I think I think there's no thing mandating that a VIT is a complete set, right? It must contain the following content. So it doesn't say it must not contain anything else. It's just a JWT with a minimal requirement set. And one optional JTI, I guess. So or recommended issuer. Jesus Christ, recommended. Okay. Okay. Even the identity of the server is not mandated. It's curious, but okay. So I think it's very easy to add, because it's based on the syntactic structure of EAT, to add claims here. No problem at all. And I think what we really just have to think about is to communicate that. Ask Rats, hey, would it be okay to use a VIT with an faulty claim? What else do we have to do? And ask Whimsy, hey, is it okay to stuff a Rats claim into your VIT? What else do we have to look out for? And just talk with both and make sure they're fine with it. And then we have to understand, when we are putting this claim into the JWT, because we have to understand how do we create trustworthy identities, actually, identifiers. Actually. So that's something we haven't really fleshed out yet. But that's on the attester verifier end, not on the verifier relying party end. But on the verifier relying party end, we could do that tentative discussion today. And I would start with Rats and ask them, because that's probably more complicated, because JWT for WIT is super straightforward. And
at what point in time? So you're saying we need to solve it all internally to Rats before bringing any of it to Whimsy?
No, I'm saying we should talk about the content of the attestation result / VIT today already. How it is okay for Rats that it is a VIT with each claim in it, or do we need more? What else do we need to make it really look like an attestation result? Please tell us. And on the VIT side, is it like, okay, we talk to Rats, it's these 1, 2, 3 claims, I don't know, that we would have to put into VIT. Would we be fine having those also and see them also? You can ignore them, but if you don't ignore them, you can really see how trustworthy that identity was. So that's nice to have. And then we have, while we're doing that outside facing work, we have to, as a special interest group, we have to do in CCC the work how to compose the evidence, how to compose the trustworthy identity, how to create a X509 for a workload, for example. I don't know, that really tells it's running on some hardware. So it is issued by the platform or some external thing. We don't know how that works. So we have to figure that out in parallel and have something ready when the discussion around how it looks like when it's on the approved by the relying party, yes or no, looking like. So that's I think easier.
Of the folks on this call, are any of you in the Whimsy working groups? Are participating, involved, in contact with, know people?
I know people, I'm aware of it. I do not even join every interim. I think I missed the last Whimsy interim.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a conflict, so it was not I tried to get there.
Right. It sounds like I'm happy to engage. It's just I think I have my own sort of biases and agenda, and may not be the best spokesperson for Rats. But I really do feel like we need to get them on board sooner rather than later. I don't know. Tell me if you disagree.
Yeah, we should hear a yes, this is okay with us. Your best case scenario, noise, and best case, your useful claim. You're fine. So, and then the Whimsy part would be like explaining how to extend a width to make it an EAT. And or maybe that's I don't know. This could also be the red part. I don't know if we
here,
better discuss it both.
here's a proposal. So next time we meet, let me take a look at the calendar.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be the first Tuesday in January, so like January 6th, what I'm thinking. Because of holidays. I can talk to, say, Peter Castleman. So he's the head of product at Whimsy, and I think he's a chair or co-chair of the Whimsy working group. Maybe we can meet in this forum and like really talk through the options here. Because what I'm afraid of is some sort of a clash, that we come up with something, bring it to Whimsy, and Whimsy says, no way, no how. And that would be probably a waste of time. We could probably use our time better if we had alignment from the get-go, at least set the goals.
Yeah, small groups, small stakeholder agreement. I think maybe the authors of the ARC or the identity work. I was looking it up right now, so I found where WIT is defined finally.
Yeah.
It took me a few attempts, but it's obviously the recently adopted workload identifier work. But I know Joe Salloway very well. Okay, we know at each other since I think it was still at Cisco, I think, or something, back in the days. And so yeah, and then Tableau and something, and now he's CyberArk.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I know him.
Is he the right person? Is he the right person
Yes.
to bring, not Peter?
I think so. Joe seems Joe knows Spiffy well. He's a Spiffy proponent, obviously.
Okay,
and yeah.
So Hank, can you then invite him, since you know him well, to the January 6th meeting here?
I can do that, but I have to open my task schedule, which tells me that I'm not working. I'm on vacation right now. Okay, this is funny. I've never opened it in my vacation time, obviously, before. I got an update, I don't know. So this is a new task. Hang talk to Joe Salloway. To invite to try Tuesday meeting on January 6th, you say, huh?
January
January
6th, yeah.
Maybe it's not talk, but write an email. That's probably better. Then I can already push his email in if I put that keyword in.
Yeah.
Email. Yeah, it's a smart tool. So it realizes when I write email, I probably want to add an email. And I want to add this email. Okay. Done. I have a task. That's not done yet, but I have created
Because the
task.
thing is that may be the best, like the outcome of that might be something that we can then bring to IETF in Shenzhen. And
Yes.
Because again, as much as I'm still convinced of the validity of my approach, I'm not going to pull it over the hump myself. So I'm much happier than we do something, the more people feel aligned with.
Okay, and I can tentatively ask I have to align here in R4Z. It's literally some work I have to do. And then talk with my co-authors about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That will happen automatically in the next 2
Right.
months.
Because again, like popping up all the way up, this is about commercial adoption. This is about money. Right. This is about large enterprise customers, having a path. Because right now I can tell you, like I'm on the ground deploying some of these things. They're very, very niche scenarios, useful scenarios, but very, very niche scenarios. Whereas once we go to workload identity, which we pretty much have to, that has to work for everything. Well, I mean, minus mainframes, but minus clients for the but certainly data center workloads.
Yeah.
And that's a huge market.
Yeah. I see that, of course, but the market has to want it. And I don't know what the market wants. So if it's the relying party with a bool, or if it's just if it can be a noisy bool, or it can be more fine grained. I don't know. So I haven't done
So the
product research, to be
market, the portion of the market that I'm confident speaking for which is regulated, like regulated institutions, right? And I'm sure there are lots and lots of places outside of that. But for regulated institutions, it is meeting regulatory obligations is what the market wants. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And regulatory obligations can be met in a variety of ways. And this is why the GRC SIG exists, and this is why the CCC just started another one, a regulatory and standards SIG that's specifically focused on regulations and standards. And in some cases, it's plain silly. So if they say no unpatched vulnerabilities in production for 2 weeks, all you need to do is repave, like literally with old code, and this is no longer in production for 2 weeks. Like it's dumb, but apparently it meets the letter of the law somewhere. And in this case, I'm basically saying what we want is the regulations will come. I'm certain of that. I would bet my career on the fact that in a few years' time, we need data and use protection as a matter of regulatory compliance. But the other part is if it cannot, if it causes production outages, it doesn't get deployed. Right. So basically, you need to think ahead and make it as smooth as humanly possible for adoption.
Which implies that WIT wins, right? That's not set. I mean, it's not unlikely. I don't want to jinx anything.
So when I say
not
these are the properties of the solution, it's different than saying this is the solution. I'm sure there will be several solutions that meet those properties. And this is our task is to find one that meets the properties.
Yeah, if we set up a nice workflow from start to end with try based on WIT, we have a good understanding of how it can potentially work with other solutions. Because how many variants are there? I mean, the basis of you have an external key server sometimes, like a trusty setup, or it's coming from the platform. How many other options are there? Right? Maybe it's something DNS.
But to speak specifically to meeting regulatory obligations, the regulator does not care if your relying party checks to see that your data on the client is protected in use, or that there is a policy somewhere that ensures that credential will only be issued to a workload that protects data in use. There is, from this regulator standpoint, I can tell you there is no difference.
Which is fine. Both one method seems to scale better than the other, but yeah.
Right. It's like ultimately, this is when you meet your regulatory obligations, there is so long as you meet it, so long as your regulator is convinced, you don't need more than that. So that's a property of a solution. That's not the solution. So I like your idea of starting with WIT. In fact, that's some of the prototyping we're trying to do right now is basically start with Whimsy and then start adding to C. But I think we've pretty much exhausted what we can do today. I really appreciate your input on all of this.
Sure.
So let's then. I will only ask you this, Hank. Once you confirm Joe's availability for Gen 6, let me know so I can advertise this as our agenda item.
That's a task for this week then. Sorry,
just so you know, I'm out on the 6th, but as long as you, Hank, are present, I think we have the same
we'll have a recording.
on this.
Yeah,
we'll have a recording. Yogesh, anything from you? You've been quiet.
Yogesh is here.
Yes, he's been here lurking.
Sneaky.
Yeah, I mean, I was quiet because I'm not directly in touch with the Whimsy guys, so I wanted to, but because of tight.
I just wanted to know if you have any thoughts on anything we've discussed.
No, I think it all makes sense what you just discussed. So yeah, let's engage with the Whimsy, and I totally agree that we need to kind of engage more, and somebody from RAT should kind of present our viewpoints to them from the attestation perspective.
Right.
And it's just that I don't travel to every ITF meeting, so I think Hank does that. Hank does that quite well, traveling across Atlantics and stuff, long distance.
Right,
so
right.
He's the best person. He's the best person to kind of talk to the Whimsy guys in face to face and take this forward. Yeah,
sounds good.
By the way, Just
Yeah.
to probe a thought, tell me if you agree. I'm under the assumption that even if we bet on the wrong horse, meaning wit is not the winning one and whimsy falls, I think the part which is going to be inherently ours, which is how do you corroborate the claims, how do you attest, is going to prevail under whatever is the mechanism for the, delivery of the eventual credential. So even if something else becomes, the de facto standards, I think we should be able to plug in to their architecture, of course, as long as we intercept them early and we make sure the extension points, if any, are required, are there. But my
Yeah.
point is, I think even though we are talking the most about how do we interface with RAS with Whimsy, this is because we don't have a direct, influence over them. But compared to the actual, landscape of the pieces we have to build, it's actually a tiny replaceable block. The other parts we have much more control, and I think it's gonna have more longevity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds good. All right, gentlemen, thank you all very much. And I will see you in a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
happy
New Year.
transition.
Happy
Happy holidays,
holidays.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye. Bye. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye.